Hi everybody, welcome to G4G here on YouTube. Today's background soundtrack is brought to you by the original PlayStation hit, Saga Frontier, and its OST. So today's topic for the video is we're going to go ahead and get into another what if video. So the last what if video I did was what if more mutants hit Marvel Strike Force. And of course in that video we were talking about friendly mutants. Basically friendly X-Men. So this video we're going to talk about X-Men villains. And we're going to talk about 4 different villains that I think will run the gamut of classes, offering a nice slice of villains to deal with. Unfortunately, I run into the same issue that I run into with when I did the X-Men friendly video. Is I'm not really too sure what generic mobs would go with them. Potentially maybe just Brotherhood grunts. Marvel Avengers Alliance had like Circle of 8 and things like that. Maybe we can do like General Brotherhood grunts. Another one are possibly different types of Sentinels. I fear that if Sentinels were in this though, they might be a little bit too small. But Marvel Avengers pulled off character-sized Sentinels and everything like that. So yeah, maybe we can do it over here. Depends on what you guys think is better, whether or not Brotherhood grunts would be the way to go, or I'm just getting distracted by the fake bots using color codes over here. Yeah, so people discovered HTML code works in chat today, which is actually somewhat dangerous in some ways. Or, different kinds of Sentinels and everything like that. So, the first person that I'm going to deal with, and we may as well get one of the better ones out of the way, will be the leader of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, at least this particular iteration, and that is going to be Magneto. So, apparently, sounds like the Fast and the Furious outside. Okay, sounds like Bike Week in Atlanta. So the first one that I'm going to deal with is Magneto, and we're going to call him a blaster. And while I do that, I'm going to do a blitz battle over here. This is not a top line for me, this is just a multiplier line. That's why you see some weaker characters, but I am leveling Quake, and more on Quake in a moment. So Magneto's going to come in as a blaster. My idea for his skill 1 is Magnetic Shock. It does increase it starts at 100% damage, but it does increase damage to those who currently have a defense down. And as you level up the ability, you have an escalating chance to call assist from mutants or evil mutants. Now, I say the or because I don't know what flavor I want to go with that suggestion. Whether or not I want to say all mutants, because Magneto has crossed lines before. And has had a good version of him. He's not strictly a villain. So I feel as if because the X-Men were only isolated to friendly mutants, that perhaps on this one, to make it not ridiculously overpowered, that I would have Magneto only call assist on Brotherhood mutants and everything. Let me know what you guys think on that one. Let me know if you think we should do a Magneto that crosses lines and can call assist from any mutant, or should it be like Kingpin, who only gets villain assists and everything. So this, speaking of Kingpin, here he is with his taunter moms. It'll be interesting to see if they survive. I could have Hulk taunt and then maybe they would survive, but whatever. We're just gonna put Hulk in the driver's seat doing a little bit of offense over here. The next skill, his skill 2, I'm going to be calling Polarizing Blast. So Polarizing Blast is an area blast, so not a full team AoE, but your typical enemy and nearby enemy AoEs like Punisher's Grenade Shot. So we're talking that kind of an AoE over here. It's an area blast that causes defense down, which feeds into his skill 1, with a small chance to stun. As you escalate the skill, you bump up the chance to stun longer. You bump up the chance to stun higher, and a chance to make a longer defense down. You know how, like Crossbones, when you level him up, he doesn't just get one taunt, he gets the 2 taunts and everything? That's what I'm thinking of over there, is causing a defense down that lasts for a longer period of time, or maybe, if the game doesn't have code for that, that it's a double defense down. So that's Polarizing Blast, which will be his second skill. His third skill, I'm going to call Electromagnetic Shielding. It causes defense up on 4 allies. Now, as far as I know, the game does not really have code in it for the moment to have a shield that absorbs damage the way, say, Marvel Avengers Alliance did, or what you see in like Overwatch, where you have to get through somebody's shield in order to penetrate to their health. DC Legends has this, and also a nifty little ability called Overheal, but I'm trying to work within the confines of the game. So if the game does not have a shield thing in it yet, I'm just going to say it causes defense up on 4 allies. And as you level that ability up, it adds a chance to gain attack up for evil... No, I'm sorry, excuse me. Its default is shielding on 4 allies and adds a percentage to gain an attack up for villain mutants. The leveling of it bumps the defense up to 5 allies and a higher chance to cause the plus attack. So this kind of feeds into Magneto's leadership abilities, especially his role as the leader of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So he's bolstering his team's defenses and kind of doing a shield-like thing that you remember he had in Marvel Avengers Alliance, except it was a personal shield. And he is giving them a small chance to gain a plus attack. And as you level it, the number of people affected by the defense goes up, and the chance to gain a plus attack goes up. His passive, I'm going to call Bolstering Presence. It's a plus 3% hit point on himself per evil mutant, so for however many Brotherhood of Evil Mutants are on the team, he goes up 3% in health. So if it's all of them, he's only going up 15% health, which seems not ridiculously overpowered, but it seems strong. And as you escalate his passive, you bump up a chance for an evil mutant to gain a plus defense when they are hit. So it's a reactionary ability that says, say one of the other evil mutants on the team gets hit, they have a chance to gain plus defense as a reaction to being hit. His whole kit sounds strong, but a strong that I think is befitting of a character like Magneto without being, wow, 2 dodges in a row, you piece of shit. Without being like ridiculously overpowered. Wolverine got him though. Unfortunately, the cinematic is blocked by Luke. Luke's always getting in the way, man. Luke also stole my bike. So, the next character that we're going to talk about from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants is going to be a brawler. I will give you a few seconds to think about where I'm going on this one. So, we're thinking of a brawler. We've dealt with a blaster. So for the brawler category, I'm going to go ahead and say Sabertooth is my next idea. So Sabretooth is going to come in as a brawler. His first skill is going to be called Claw Rend. He has an increased damage to those who are bleeding, and he has a chance to chain to others who are bleeding. As you level up the ability, you escalate the chance to chain, and one of the ability ranks will give it not a chance, but it will make it cause a bleed. So, other bleeders, like in this case over here, what Elektra does when she's hitting taunters and everything like that, Black Panther, Wolverine, that's where Sabretooth's synergy is that his first ability has a chance to chain to people who are bleeding, and then eventually he has the chance to cause bleeding on his level 1. And you might be thinking, well, it almost sounds like you're not feeding him bleeds. Shouldn't he be standalone where, he can work with his own bleeds? That answer is yes. And that's coming up on Brutal Swipes, his second ability. Brutal Swipes is an AoE attack causing bleeds. So for this one, I'm going to consider it a full AoE rather than a limited AoE or just simply area damage. And that's simply what it does, is it just does damage and it causes bleeds. As you level it up, you have an escalating chance to cause an extra stack of bleeds. So, it sounds a little DC Legends-ish, I totally admit that, you're right, it does sound like what you see a lot of when you're updating legendaries and DC Legends, but, it also, to me, feels like an homage to his Marvel Avengers Alliance character. If you remember, Sabretooth became a lockbox character and went to the good side because he had a bomb in his head and he was forced to go over to the hero side. So, that's his level 2, or skill 2. Berserk Tantrum is his 3, or his ultimate. Berserk Tantrum says Sabretooth enters a berserk state. He gains an attack up, but also a defense down. He has a chance to stun those who are already bleeding. So, clearly you can give him synergy by stacking the team with bleeds, like Black Panther and Wolverine and everything like that. And if your timing is good, what makes it the mental chess match, if you use the Brutal Swipes right before you get to Berserk Tantrum, it's going to be neat. As you escalate this ability, you have an escalating chance to stun those who are bleeding, and a chance to not gain the defense down. So essentially, the Berserk stance goes to how a lot of MMOs consider Berserk, where there's a lot of payoff to it. You're causing increased damage, but it's also risky because you're in this wild, feral state. So it makes you more prone to taking damage and everything. His passive is Regeneration Factor, a reasonable chance to gain hit points up per turn, with an escalating chance to gain an attack up on his turn. So I wanted to check Wolverine's over here. Wolverine's is Healing Factor. On turn, gain regenerate for 10% of his character's max health. 5% chance to revive. So Sabretooth isn't going to have the revive ability. I can't say I've ever heard of that for him. Meanwhile, Wolverine has come back I don't know how many times. So I would say the healing factor would be a little bit weaker. I would say regenerate for 5% of the character's max health. And then as you level the ability up, you can maybe have it go from 5 to 10. And also a smallish chance for him to gain an attack up. I'd say maybe starting at 20% and going up to 30% or something like that. That seems kind of fair. So, the next one that we're going to talk about is the tank role. And I'm sure if we've been talking about the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and, people associated with Magneto and Evil Mutants and everything, or at least enemies of the X-Men, obviously we know where the tank is going to go on this one, and it's going to be our pal, Juggernaut. So, for Juggernaut, I have him in the tank role. His skill 1 ability is going to be called Momentum. This is basically how Juggernaut is portrayed in just about any game. I mean, whether you're looking at Marvel Heroes, whether you're looking at Marvel Avengers Alliance, Momentum is always, a huge kit piece when we're talking about Juggernaut. He attacks the target for 90% damage and a chance to gain attack up. A medium amount, not a heavy amount, not a light amount like we've been talking about, but, you know, a fair chance for him to gain an attack up. As you escalate the ability, the chance to gain attack goes up, and you also have a chance to cause defense down on your target. Unlike Colossus, who I wanted to be very defensive and very heroic and very protective, I wanted Juggernaut to be mean and gritty and in-your-face offensive, because, I mean, you know, what does Juggernaut care to protect anything the way Colossus does? I mean, even in Deadpool, you could tell that Colossus wants to just be, you know, a relatively decent fellow and protect things. Juggernaut, I wanted more offensive in this capability, so I wanted him to be kind of the opposite of Colossus. So his second ability, I'm calling Don't You Know Who I Am. He gains a taunt, and his attacks will cause defense down. I don't necessarily know that there's code in the game for this to ensure you cause a debuff, but basically he's going to gain a buff on himself that causes defense down, whereas the level 1 you have to rank it up to cause it, and it's a chance. Don't You Know Who I Am is a taunt, and it is a guarantee that his attacks for a round or whatever will cause defense down, because you're getting hit by the Juggernaut. You're probably going to get knocked silly and feel like if you're wearing armor that it's been crushed or something. As you escalate this ability, it has a chance to give him an attack up. So I'm considering attack up basically momentum. You know, him building up steam and being this unstoppable force. His third ability, his ultimate, I'm going to call Ground Pound. Now, that's kind of a reference to MMA-related things, when you get somebody on the ground and you're punching them, ground and pound. I couldn't go with Earthquake because, of course, Quake has Earthquake, even though the name of this ability in Juggernaut's past has been called Earthquake. So I'm calling it Ground Pound. It is a full AoE attack, an attack all, with bonus damage per his attack up, and it causes defense down. As you level the ability, it has a chance to stun. I don't know of too many AoE stuns in the game, so I feel we have to start them delicately and ramp them up, so, you know, maybe a 30% chance to cause a stun, and as you level the ability, maybe it escalates it up to a max of 50. It seems reasonable. I mean, it's the Juggernaut, and after he's had a bunch of steam built up, aka momentum, you know, he unleashes it, and that's it. You could say, to balance him out, that any attacks up he loses after this attack, and I would think that seems to be valid. I'm not originally discussing that, but I think that's a valid thing for keeping Juggernaut in check. His passive is I Am the Juggernaut. You knew it had to be in here somewhere. And I Am the Juggernaut is a passive that says he is resistant to crowd control, and as you bump the ability up, it has a chance to give him an attack up on a turn. So he's tanky, he does have a taunt, he'll have high hit points and defense and everything, but he's very offensive minded, because, you know, when is Juggernaut going to act protectorish like Luke or Colossus and everything? So I wanted to make him sort of like Hulk and Crossbones is kind of my idea over there. Moving on to the final character, I guess I'm going to call this a controller. Let me look at Nebula. Cosmic Tech Brawl. Well, she's a brawler. Let me see what Black Widow is going to be. Controller. Okay, good. So I'm going to classify her similar to Black Widow, and I guess I just probably gave it away over there. If I'm saying this person's going to be similar to Black Widow, and we're talking about evil mutants and everything, who do we have left? Yeah, it's Mystique. So for Mystique, I'm going to have her skill 1 be called Gun Kick Combo. Little bit of a nod to Marvel Avengers Alliance. This was not very easy to find what abilities out there I could throw for Mystique, because she's never really been that much of a playable character. So it's not easy to use another game as a reference, where a lot of these characters, you know, they were Marvel Heroes, they were in Marvel Avengers Alliance. She was a villain in Marvel Avengers Alliance, and you can find out her abilities that way, and that's what I did for my ideas on this one. So, Gun Kick Combo is it attacks a target and one nearby target for 80% damage. She gains Stealth after the attack. As you level that ability up, you have escalating damage and a chance to copy one buff. And the buff comes from either one of the 2 targets that she hits. So, I mean, she might gain attack up, she might gain defense up, she might gain a taunt, or, you know, regeneration or something like that. It's similar to Black Widow. Her second attack is Million Bullets. This one again is a nod to Marvel Avengers Alliance. It is a full AoE attack, so the full enemy team at 75% damage. It's kind of weak, but it has a 50% chance to cause a random debuff on anybody hit. So that's 50% per target. And it's any one of the random debuffs that are currently in the game. Attack down, defense down, etc. As you level this ability, you have escalating damage capping out at 100%, and a chance to cause the debuff goes up to a maximum of 75. So it starts at 50, and as you level it, it tops off at 75. Seems fair, and honestly, it seems very Mystique-ish, to be honest. She's very similar to Black Widow, but she's different enough from Elektra, so I think she would be a good Black Widow-ish character for villain-related campaigns. Her third ability is Infiltration. You become an untalented version of a random character on the field. As you level the ability up, you have a chance for it to, more of a chance for it to be your teammate and gain Stealth. So this is one of the most interesting things I've thought of, and it's very, very meta. It's very much a thinking man's ability, because if you have a team that you really, really like, you are probably going to level this ability as much as you can, because she has a chance to clone one of the people on your team, more likely. However, if there is a certain character in the meta who is very, very popular and you're running into in a lot of blitzes and arenas, you might say, well, I don't want to level this ability because Doctor Strange. Okay, Doctor Strange is ridiculously popular in PvP. I don't own him, so I really want my Mystique to have a chance to turn into Doctor Strange. That's what I think. That's just like, wow. If I was like watching a video and somebody said that, I'd be like, man, that is like, that's fucking nuts. I hate to, I'm not trying to sound egotistical, I just like that ability, and I like how that makes it risky to bump that ability up, you know. But if you have a team that you really like, you're like, man, double Hulks, like how great would that be? And when I say untalented, what I mean by that is that person's skills on their base kit, not leveled. So if she clones Magneto and does magnetic shock, it would be magnetic shock at its base level. It wouldn't gain the escalating chance to do the call assist, you know, or the team up from somebody. So that's what I mean in base kit. It's very, very, very similar to Abathur from Heroes of the Storm. It's kind of what I'm taking it. And it's the only way that I can think of Mystique using her shape-shifting abilities and turning into other people. And that's how I came up with it. That's how I think it could be done with game code. her passive, or her skill 4, is Shapeshifter, increased dodge chance, and an escalating chance to gain stealth when she's hit. So as you level it up, the ability gives you an ever-increasing chance that you will become stealthy after being hit. Again, what are the ways that games represent the fact that maybe you're shifting or you're confusing other people by looking like other things? We don't want to go with a mind control. Mystique is not going to do that. We're going to kind of use the Final Fantasy-ish mirror images. So, going back to the original X-Men movie, when there's like 2 Wolverines and everything like that, and everybody's confused, they don't know what to hit, they're afraid to hit something. The way that I could think of accomplishing that in this game is dodge. And, you know, also being stealthy as kind of a self-preservation thing. I mean, not that she's Nightcrawler and is going to disappear in a whiff of brimstone, but that's the way I think I can kind of emulate her infiltrator-ish setup and everything, is basically stealth and dodge chance. So there you go, guys. That's my ideas for Evil Mutants. It really should include a 5th so that Magneto's 5 on the electromagnetic shielding hits everybody. But it's going to hit everybody whether or not your team is Evil Mutants anyway. So Magneto is a blaster, Sabertooth is a brawler, Juggernaut is a tank, and Mystique as a controller. That's my idea, guys. This is more specifically related to very, very common X-Men villains and everything like that. I would love to do future videos thinking about Omega Red, Silver Samurai, you know, some other ones like Spiral, and you know, enemies in the Mojoverse. I'd love to do one on the Runaways, but I think the Runaways would be very, very, very tough to pull off in this game. Molly could be a tank, Carolina could be a blaster. The others are going to have a little bit of issues, but I'll think on it. So there you go, guys. Let me know what you think about the characters and the abilities, if anybody's underpowered, ridiculously overpowered, so on and so forth. See you guys later.